in the Bible, there were a lot of bad kings that the Lord allowed to be king.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, why did he allow that, which I'm supposing is probably free will? Were those kings ordained by him in terms of him knowing that they would be bad kings for judgment or for something like that? And also, could that happen in the future with future presidents here in the United States?
Well, that's a good question, because a lot of people think that the Bible teaches that all the kings that rise up and all the rulers that rise up are specifically ordained by God, as opposed to someone else who could have been risen up. But God actually said to the people of Israel in Hosea 8:4, they set up kings, but not by me. So God indicates that the kings that Israel set up, he didn't set them up. Now, God did set up the kings in Judah because he appointed David and all of his successors to be the rulers in Judah. And so by choosing David and his successors, there was a natural succession to the throne. And so we could say that God set them up, not so much individually, but as a dynasty. In the northern kingdom, there were several different dynasties, because God did set up Jeroboam as the first king of the northern kingdom. But then you find other kings rising up in later generations and killing and taking over the throne from kings that they're not related to. So there's several different dynasties rise and fall. And so God is not taking responsibility for those kings. Now, when the Bible says there's no authority but of God in Romans 13, I don't believe it's saying that God always raises up who's going to be in authority, but that when somebody is in a position of authority, the authority that comes with that position is God's authority appointed to someone in that role. That is, the person has the authority because God has allowed that position they're in to be an authoritative position. Jesus told Pilate, "You would have no authority if it was not given to you from above." But that doesn't necessarily mean that no one else could have been in that office other than Pilate. Whoever was in that office would have that authority, because God has ordained that there would be offices of authority. Would he always put the right king in there, or he can? God certainly can. It says in Daniel that God raises up kings and takes down kings. To say that doesn't mean he does it every time, but if he does it sometimes, if he does it when he wants to do it, then that's true. He does raise up kings when he wants to do it, and he brings down kings when he wants to do it. But that's not a statement that says that every time a king rises or falls that God must have done it necessarily. Like it says in Proverbs 21:1, the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turns it whithersoever he wills. So God turns the hearts of kings. But that doesn't mean every time a king makes a decision that God has turned his heart. It means that this is something God has the power to do and does when he wants to. When he wants to, he can harden Pharaoh's heart. When he wants to, he can stop hardening Pharaoh's heart. When he wants to, he can put it in Cyrus's heart to let the people go from their captivity. He can put things in kings' hearts, but that doesn't mean that every decision a king makes, God put in his heart. Basically, these statements are saying that God is in power. He can raise up a king. He can bring down a king. He certainly brought down Herod Agrippa when an angel of the Lord struck him and worms ate him and he died in Acts chapter 12. And so he can also turn their hearts if he wants to, but he doesn't always intervene. God usually lets people make their own decisions. And in the case of a nation that's very rebellious against him, as Israel and Judah were most of their history with kings, for them to have a bad king is a judgment upon them, and God allows it. He might even give them a bad king, but he may not have to. It may be that a bad king's coming up through the pike in the normal processes of natural succession, and God just doesn't interfere. He lets them have a bad king because they deserve it. So I don't know. I don't know that we can say that every person who becomes president or every person who becomes king, God specifically selected that person to be in that role. He might have. Sometimes he does. I just don't know if the Bible's saying it's always the case. In a nation like ours, where the people decide who's going to be the ruler, we could say that God kind of works behind the scenes to put it in the minds of the voters to vote as they do, or we could just assume that God lets things take their natural course, and the person the people vote for is the person they deserve. And so if we have bad rulers, it may be because we deserve bad rulers because we chose them and we're bad people.
So there is a possibility that in future elections that the Lord could raise up a president that would actually have judgment on either this country or someplace else. But
Sure.
I'm hearing you that is a possibility.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.